Alright, welcome back to another Art of War 3 replay. I'm your host, John Cena, and today we're going to be doing a clan 2v2 battle. I'm going to be the green Confederate player, and my partner, Lionel Macy, is going to be the blue Confederate player. Let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to be facing off against two resistance players on the Silk Road map. So we can see we got some early scouting unfolding around the battlefield as we kind of fight for those early game containers. We can see some early game development also happening. I'm getting a scout onto the yellow player. Let's see what yellow's up to. We can see that yellow is HQ2 at this time. We're got an assault vehicle factory, and my scout's going to get cleaned up there at this point. Meanwhile, we can see Lionel Macy's a little bit slower on the development than I am. Looks like they're still building up resources. Meanwhile, I've already got 5 supply centers. I'm going to go ahead and drop a bunker down on the top of the ledge there. And it looks like we got some infantry coming in for the resistance side. They're going to be able to secure that large container for resources. We got a coyote coming in now trying to scout out my base here. Looks like Lionel Macy is now at 5 supply centers, is also tacking up to HQ3. And looks like Lionel Macy's also putting down a couple bunkers there. And we can see that bunker on the top next to the barracks there is actually not on the ledge there. My advice on this particular map is to have some kind of defensive structure or building on the top road there that gives you some visual over the top. Otherwise, there's possibility for getting surprised. Let's get a scout onto the red player. Let's see what red's up to. We can see red is HQ3 at this point with 5 supply centers and is building up some sniper towers, so pretty good infrastructure so far. Let's see yellow. Yellow's got 6 supply centers and is going for hawks, so we can see that yellow is definitely more developed of the two players. And we can tell by the very neat base deployment from each player that these two are experienced resistance players. Lionel Macy getting a scout onto the red player's base. Looks like this Vertex is not being microed very well though. It's taking some damage to this Porcupine, and the Hawk's going to dish out damage, and that Vertex is going to go down. So I've got 7 supply centers at this point. Lionel Macy's got 6 supply centers, and is continuing to put down additional infrastructure. Looks like Lionel Macy's chosen to put his assault vehicle factory in the front of his base. I actually do not recommend that, because the assault vehicle factory is, if it's in the front and it gets destroyed, you have no way to produce any units. So we got a level 3 assault vehicle factory, Zeus tanks, and Typhoons are starting to come out now for Macy. And it looks like now these Hawks are being microed to dish out damage against the assault vehicle factory. And again, this is why I don't put important production structures in the front. You want to put them in the back. That assault vehicle factory is vulnerable. They got sniped by those Hawks, and now Macy's going to have to rebuild his assault vehicle factory. So at this point, I'm going for an HQ3 army build here. My plan is to mix in fire assault with hammers, and we can see that there's a couple scouts here on the top of the ledge. My hammer tank is going to get cleaned up by those Hawks. These coyotes are coming in now to scout my base. We got a torrent in the mix there. We're going to clean up those coyotes. And here comes the red player. We got some Jaguars and infantry on the ledge there. And it looks like Porcupine's coming in to support as well. Macy's in trouble. Macy does not have a ground army. He is still in the process of making production structures and upgrading. So the Vertex is going to come in. It's going to take a ton of damage from those Porcupines, and the Vertex gets crushed. This is not looking good at all. We're only 11 minutes in. Macy is already under pressure from this red player. Does not have the units to defend. So I'm going to need to make a push right now. So I've got Typhoons, hammers, fire assaults, and torrent in the mix, and I'm trying to reinforce my army as I push onto yellow's base. So red's moving in onto Lionel Macy's base here. It's going to clean up that second special vehicle factory. My Typhoons are dishing out damage, and we can see that yellow is already HQ4, and it looks like they're going for a mass aviation build. We can tell by the double avia factory build. Now I need to clean up the airfields as fast as possible to prevent Hawks from being brought into play. Meanwhile, Macy is trying to defend, I think. I'm not entirely sure what's happening. These tanks are dishing out some good damage on my end against this yellow player's buildings, but I am losing ground here. Meanwhile, the red player is continuing to dish out damage against Macy. Macy's got a Vertex left in play and is going to lose the headquarters. It's not looking good for Lionel Macy. Vertex is going to go down over the yellow player's base. And it looks like this game is turning into a full-on base trade. It's going to be my ground army trying to clean up yellow versus the red player's army trying to clean up Macy. And we can see that we'll be able to clean up this second avia factory, so no aviation now for the yellow player at the moment. Yellow's got some Jaguar tanks in play, but again, I'm going to be able to outproduce the yellow player for now with the hammer tank. So as long as I can keep the numbers up, I'll have the momentum in this particular engagement. We're doing a good job overall just cleaning up the infrastructure. More reinforcements are coming in on my end. Meanwhile, red is continuing to clean up Lionel Macy's base. Macy's lost most of his buildings and it only has a few infrastructure left. Meanwhile, on my end, I'm continuing to clean up this yellow player's base. Yellow has lost the headquarters at this point, along with a lot of production buildings, but we can see that yellow has a ton of supply centers left, and that's going to come in handy for rebuilding potentially if yellow can get back into the game. So right now, continuing to just clean up buildings as best as I can. We can see that those buildings are running with power despite there only being 2 power plants, so yellow is likely using an emergency measures boost of some kind. And now my ground army is just continuing to push and try to finish off the rest of yellow's base. Here comes the red player though. Red's moving in reinforcements. I've got 3 torrents and a handful of hammers here. And my hammers need to target those jaguars, but they're auto-targeting the porcupines. So I have to manually retarget them to hit the jaguars. We want to take out the jaguars. Those are the units dishing out the most damage. And here we go, trying to fight it out with these jaguars. Yellow coming in with a jaguar as well. We've cleaned up most of the jaguars, but my hammer tanks are getting cleaned up as well. And I'm losing units here pretty quickly. We can see that most of my units in the picture right now are Typhoons, and Typhoons are not useful at all against ground units. So I've only got 2 hammers left and a torrent. This is going to get cleaned up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move ground troops onto the open space area where Macy's base used to be. We can see I've dropped down a few rocket towers. That was as a precaution in case red tried to launch an attack on my base. So at this point, I'm going to try to retreat my Typhoons here, but this is not looking good. My Typhoons are going to get cleaned up by these units, no problem. So Macy's deployed a reserve headquarters here, and I tell Macy that Macy's got to scout a little bit more. I think that the engagement may have turned out a little bit differently if we had a scout on that top ledge, but it's already in the past, so not much we can do. We just have to keep going. So here comes the red player with some infantry, jaguars, and porcupines. And I've got hammers and heavy assaults in the area. This is not going to be enough though. Macy's rapidly trying to rebuild as quickly as he can. But here comes the ground units from the red army. Red's now trying to finish Macy off, trying to see if they can turn it into a 2v1 at this point. I've got to keep Macy alive as best as I can here. So my plan here is to keep my hammers moving as much as possible to dish out damage. And in a way, I'm going to use parts of Macy's base to tank some of the damage from the red player. Again, I have to be careful to not let Macy's base take too much damage. We don't want Macy to lose buildings. But if I lose all my units to defend, we're going to have problems. I got some fire assaults coming in now. This is going to be super helpful for taking out those grenadiers. And those grenadiers are going to get cleaned up, and with the combination of hammers and fire assaults, we're going to be able to push back the red player, and this is going to give Macy the breathing room he needs to drop some more defensive structures down and infrastructure. So Macy's got 4 bunkers down, a few supply centers, and is dropping some factories and some more supply centers to get that economy going. So now I'm going to move my ground troops to the center of the map. I flag Macy's Typhoons, and I tell Macy to move the Typhoons in to support my army. I've got a strong ground presence here, but I don't have any air support. Look at this. Yellow has rebuilt a good portion of their base. Looks like they were trying to build towards the the red army in an effort to try and make one mega base, perhaps. And we see a hawk coming out of that level 2 avian factory, so we need to take out this aviation quickly or we're going to be finished. Typhoon's coming in now from Macy to provide anti-air support. And now we're going to be able to finish off that level 2 avian factory. No more jets for the yellow player. And we're going to have to possibly move on to that ledge there. It looks like a couple sniper towers have been deployed. Yellow's got 6 supply centers, a tier 3 HQ, and a couple infrastructure buildings. So Yellow was able to rebuild pretty quickly. So we need to finish off the yellow player. So my army's split right now. I got hammers hitting the headquarters, and I have typhoons, hammers, infantry, and torrents, kind of as like the buffer between my hammers and the red player's base. Hammers are continuing to dish out damage. Here comes the hawk again, dishing out damage against my hammer tanks. I'm going to clean up that level 3 headquarters, so no more unit production for the yellow player. So continuing to just put pressure on this yellow player as much as we can. Yellow still got 3 power plants and 5 supply centers. Looks like a gun tower as well. Red's now coming in with Jaguars and infantry to try and defend as best as possible. But this is going to be too much, I think. I don't think Red's got the firepower to punch through and break our army at this point. We've got some great momentum behind us. We're just continuing to clean up these supply centers. And looks like we're going to finish off the rest of the supply centers and the power plant. So now we're going to move on to the ledge here. We saw that there was hawks earlier, and we didn't see them in the main base. So they're probably up here. And look at this, another tier 3 headquarters from the yellow player. Yellow had managed to build 2 tier 3 headquarters in the time that we left them alone. So we're going to need to be able to clean up this headquarters as well to deny unit production. So looks like Red's not finished yet though. Here comes some Jaguars, infantry, and a porcupine. Red's still trying to defend their ally, but we're going to be able to finish off this headquarters. Headquarters is going to go down, and now I'm actually going to pull my hammers back to get into a better position to get support from my torrents. I've got a couple torrents in play here, going to clean up that sniper tower there. Now we can see the Jaguars moving in from the red player. Red's now trying to clean up my ground forces here to push me off the little ledge area here. And looks like these Jags are going to be able to clean up my initial ground troops. Here comes some reinforcements though. I got hammers, fire assaults, and typhoons moving in. And Red's running out of steam here. Meanwhile, it looks like Macy's moving a big ground army across the map here. It's got infantry and some vehicles in there, trying to see if he can make a push onto Red's base. I'm going to clean up the last Jaguar here with my tanks and fire assaults. Macy's now trying to make a push onto Red. Let's see what kind of damage we can do here. We can see there's 4 more supply centers from the yellow player. Yellow is relentlessly trying to keep themselves in the game. But again, we've just got too much momentum on our side. We're just going to be able to continue to clean up these infrastructures, buildings from the yellow player. So right now we're just kind of taking out these construction yards, the power plants. We're slowly going to finish off the last bits of the yellow player's buildings. And at this point, it's pretty much a 2 versus 1 in this arena. And I don't think Red's got the economy or firepower to successfully make a comeback on their own. I've also got a hammer tank in the area where Yellow's base used to be, just on patrol mode to keep Yellow out of the game. Macy's now moving in a full ground army consisting of hammers, infantry, and typhoons in the mix. I've got some more vehicles moving in as well, some points in the mix as well. Looks like Macy's got some Zeus tanks back in play as well. And now we're just going to move in and pretty much destroy the rest of Red's base. Alright, that's pretty much the battle there. Hope you all enjoyed this battle. It was pretty fun to fight our way back from a base trade. This is why it's always nice to have partners who can support each other and people who are ready to get back into play when needed. We will see you in the next one. Good luck in your battles.